Good morning, everyone. We're going to start by singing Spirit of Life this morning. We'll sing the first verse in English, then sing it through twice in Spanish. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí. Y al corazón, cántale tu compasión. Sopla volar sobre la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraígame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí. Y al corazón, cántale tu compasión. Sopla volar sobre la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraígame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Welcome to this virtual gathering of the Westside Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I am Lisa Reitzes, a member of the worship planning team and your worship associate today. Joining me behind the scenes is an extraordinary technical team, making sure that this worship service is delivered to you virtually as gracefully as possible. We are honored to welcome back as our visiting speaker today, the Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons, who will be joining us remotely from his home in the Philippines. Joseph Santos Lyons uses he, him pronouns and is a biracial Chinese and Czech writer, organizer, and ordained Unitarian Universalist community minister. Currently, he is working on cultural work and advocacy projects in the Southeast Asian climate justice ecosystem, developing religious education, ministerial formation, and multicultural ministry programs, and overseeing the development of a co-housing community. Joseph was born and raised in Oregon and now lives in Metro Manila, and together with his partner, they co-parent their 3 children. Joseph maintains affiliations as a minister with the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Philippines and the Church of the Larger Fellowship. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, whatever the color of your skin, whoever or however you love, however your body moves and your brain works, however you identify, you are welcome in this faith community. We gather today from many locations, but we acknowledge that our congregation resides on unceded ancestral lands of the Duwamish people and the Suquamish people, indigenous nations that are still here. In this acknowledgement, we recognize the deep cultural heritage imbued in the mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines that surround us all. May we nurture our relationships with our coastal Salish neighbors and honor our shared responsibilities to this part of the earth. Let's take a moment to offer humble respect for this place and all its peoples. Our opening words today are from Robin F. Gray. Day breaks on our gratitude for the safety of family and friends, for the freedom to seek knowledge and find our own truths, for the company of those who gather here, however remotely, and for the sustenance of all kinds that we offer one another. The flaming chalice is a beacon of our Unitarian Universalist faith, the symbol of our determination to form beloved community, and the light of hope that calls us into action to heal the world. Our chalice lighter today is Regina Brennan.
Regina Brennan and her spouse, Rose Shepard, joined Westside in 2004. Regina has been involved in many aspects of our congregation. To name a few, religious education, Mary's Place rotating night shelter, White Setter Food Bank, social justice, community outreach, immigration justice, choir, and the church garden. Despite having grown up in an Irish family that was devoutly Catholic, Regina holds no bitterness or resentment for that religion. She also has an unshakable belief in her custom-made hippie God, who is made up of bits and scraps of other religions, 12-step programs, spiritual awakenings, answered and unanswered prayers, miracles, science, and getting through some difficult times. She appreciates belonging to a religion that allows her to hold these beliefs.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are from Paul Stephan Dodenhoff. For this 1 hour, Spirit of Life, we let go. For this 1 hour, may we let go of our anxieties, our fears, our anger, our self-doubts, our regrets, our petty grievances, and our distractions. If only for this 1 hour, let the flame of this chalice burn them from our hearts and minds and light our way to peace and serenity for this one holy hour. Please join now in singing hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
Welcome again to our virtual gathering of the Westside Unitarian Universalist Congregation. If you are with us for the first time, we are so glad that you found us during this complex period of our lives. Please contact us via our website, wsuu.org, so that we can reach out to you by sending our electronic newsletter, The Westside Week, which contains information about upcoming worship services and other virtual activities. At Westside, we aspire to be warm and welcoming to everyone, but the necessity for physical distance has required us all to be creative and energetic about how we stay connected on Sunday mornings. Let's take a moment to imagine the faces of our friends at Westside and to picture the spaces we keep open to welcome newcomers. For everyone, you are now invited to check in via the Zoom chat box, letting each other know who and how you are. You're also invited to send a quick text or email to someone you care about, making the interdependent web of existence vivid and loving. To continue these conversations, we will once again host a virtual coffee hour. Immediately after the postlude music, stay online by clicking the Zoom link that was included in this morning's Worship Blast email. That link will also show up in the chat area at the end of service. You'll be able to click on it from there. The Zoom link will take us into a meeting format so that you can see each other's faces and take turns sharing. For instance, you can figure out if somebody has learned how to cut hair at home. Clearly not me. If the group is large, we will form smaller breakout groups. Participants won't need to do anything to join the groups, and they will be assigned randomly. We hope that during the coffee hour, you can catch up with those dear to you and meet some new folks too. Even as we shelter in place, our beloved community is staying very active. So now more than ever, it's vital that all members read the Westside Week electronic newsletter to stay current on the wealth of information that our bridge minister, professional staff, and lay leadership put out to keep us all connected and engaged in the life of the congregation. Here are a few highlights to remember. For the May 10 service, everyone is invited to send a flower photo to Cheryl Brown for our flower celebration. She will put together a collage of images, and her email is in the week newsletter. Please be careful about emails pretending to be from Reverend Deanna asking for money. Do not reply to these messages and block the sender in your email system. And today's virtual coffee hour will include, will include a chance to chat with members of the board as if they were sitting at a table in the social hall. Stop by to ask about the budget for the new year, ministerial transitions, and anything to do with congregational governance. There is a separate link in the worship blast for this group, and it will be shown in the chat area as well. You could start there and then go to the general coffee hour link. Lots going on. I know that many of you are involved in cluster communities as well. And from what I hear, these have been a wonderful way to stay connected. So as we regather and center ourselves, you will find the words of our congregational affirmation on your screen. One of the most important expressions of how we are bound together as a community of faith, children, youth, and adults, is this spoken affirmation. It is a statement of our highest values as Unitarian Universalists and the promises we make to each other at Westside to create our beloved community. Please join me. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another. In a moment, we will engage in a collective act of generosity, contributing to Westside by text or by check. As a congregation, we have decided to give away 1/3 of each week's undesignated financial gifts. The contributions for the month of April will benefit the Minister's Discretionary Fund. The Minister's Discretionary Fund is used to assist members and friends of the congregation, and sometimes members of the larger community, in meeting their basic living needs, such as shelter, food, utilities, transportation, medical, and other emergencies. During this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have received a few requests from congregants and others for financial assistance due to unforeseen layoffs and business closings. We expect that this may continue in the coming weeks or months, and we need to increase this discretionary fund in order to help those who are struggling. Please give as generously as you are able. You may send a check to the WSUU office, or you can text the amount of your gift to 888-530-9056 while we receive the gift of music from Chris McEwen. Your generous offers will now be gratefully received. Thanks so much to Chris McEwen for that beautiful fiddle tune. And thank you for all of your generous giving, your financial support, and all of the ways that you contribute to this congregation as we maintain our organization and our connectedness in this challenging time. Each week, we set aside time as a sacred community for centering and reflection, to become aware of the deep moments in our lives and to extend our compassionate care to those around us. In this intensely altered and complex time, let's take a few moments to embrace the joys and hold tenderly the sorrows that have filled our days this week. This is from Susan Kahn. I am sorry to report that my friend Anne's sister Julia, who's a nurse in Hartford, Connecticut, has contracted COVID-19. Anne reports that Julia is at home and stable, but as Anne lives here in Seattle, she's upset that she can't be with Julia. Please keep them both in your prayers. And from Reverend Deanna, our congregational leadership, including the Pastoral Associates team. As the safety precautions have been extended, many significant events continue to be canceled or postponed. Wedding plans, graduations, ordinations, important family gatherings, long anticipated trips, athletic competitions, and other life-giving activities. The loss of these joyous events can be stressful and sorrowful. Much of the daily news locally, nationally, and globally is daunting. We recognize that we are still in unknown times. We want you to know that we are here for you and to remember that we are here for each other. Let us hold in our hearts the joys and sorrows, known and unknown, our own and those of others among us. Let us all feel held by this loving community, and let us rejoice in that love. For our meditation today, I'd love us to go back to the embodied meditation that we learned from Reverend Deanna a few weeks ago. So as you're willing and able, I invite you to extend one hand. With the other, trace the mountain range of your hand, one breath at a time. If this movement is not part of your life ability, you can practice within your imagination, breathing in on the rise, breathing out on the slide. Breathing in as we go up the mountain, and out as we go into the valley. At any point in any day, remember this beautiful sustaining practice, one that slows us down from the urgency and intensity, a moment to refill and restore our sense of connectedness to ourselves and this beautiful world, no matter how hard the stories are around us and sometimes within us. Breathing in and out. And thinking about the mountains and valleys and lakes, there are also stories lately about how many exquisite and everyday places on the earth can be seen more clearly now due to reduced pollution. Let's hold those images of clean air and clean water in our hearts and remember anew that we have in our power to preserve and protect the earth. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out.
The springtime world unfurls into its luscious green indifference. Across the meadow, swallows whirl with effortless extravagance. I reach out both my arms, all my tethers turn to feathers. By the grace of this green earth I am released to dance with my whole heart wide open. The earth celebrates my surrender. She gathers me in to her circle again, saying, dance with your whole heart wide open. The turning earth is giving birth to a glowing yellow moon. It rises from her belly, full and round, she sets it free. I'm waxing and I'm waning into darkness, into light. I feel the power of my completeness and my freedom to rise and dance with my whole heart wide open. The earth celebrates my surrender. She gathers me in to her circle again, saying, dance with your whole heart wide open. Dance with your whole heart wide open. The earth celebrates our surrender. She gathers us in to her circle again, saying, dance with your whole heart wide open. Dance with your whole heart wide open.
My goodness. Thank you so much to Kathleen Tracy for contributing our anthem today. Please join me now in welcoming our distinguished visiting speaker, the Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons. Now, the sound and video quality of this recording are not as good as some of the other recordings we've been able to use in other services. As you will hear and know, Reverend Joseph is across the world. So as much as we would have loved to have him live, we needed to work with a recording. He worked with the tech team to get the best recording possible, but in places there may be glitches between sound and image. It's probably not your device. But Reverend Santos Lyons' message is so valuable and timely. We did everything possible to create this shared experience today. To help you understand what he's saying, our tech team has added captions to the recording. And now, Reverend Joseph.
Greetings and blessings, Westside Seattle and beyond. It warms my heart to be able to share a message with you this morning. I'm sorry I cannot be with you live, as it would be 1:30 a.m. in the morning, my time. Thanks for being in community today, for living and sharing worship in this, our sacred moment. Personally, I'm entering my second month in quarantine here in Metro Manila. We've been restricted to our homes with only a few designated hours each week when we are permitted to go out for groceries and medicine. COVID-19 has affected us close to home. My wife and I have both been exposed and under observation, and now an aunt who is a nurse and her immediate family in New Jersey had confirmed diagnoses this week. We're keeping them in our prayers. We are well otherwise, staying vigilant, feeling overwhelmed, working from home, and checking in with loved ones. My thoughts go out to all of you, and I hold you in my heart as you cope with these extraordinary times. Outside my apartment, it is so quiet. I live in the densest, most congested part of one of the greatest urban cities in the world. Think New York City and double it. There are usual vibrations of construction and traffic, crescendos throughout the day, and can keep even the most centered person a bit off balance. There's a strange and wary stillness that has settled over our neighborhood. Now, every day feels like sort of the most devout holiday, mixed with the anticipation of waiting for some big announcement that will affect the rest of your life, like a college admission, a job offer, a health diagnosis, but then having it delayed again and again and again. I wake up to the sound of birds who blessedly have found their way through the concrete maze to sing to us each morning as the sun rises. I peer out at our main street where normally jeepneys and tricycles compete, often badly, with pedestrians and private cars, and it sits mostly empty. We walk up the 6-story parking garage and look out at the skyline, which is darker at night. I let myself experience the awe of this abnormal and fascinating situation, setting aside the economic toll and deep disparities of the pandemic for just a minute. What are you experiencing where you are, on your street, and in your neighborhood? I've been thinking about what this moment is like and have been drawn to my memories of walking along stretches of cool sand on the Oregon coast, on that edge between earth and water with the great expanse of sky overhead. I remember as a child visiting the ocean, going off by myself into the tall grass on the bluff. I would pat the grass down and lay on my back, hidden from all, and I'd stare up at the clouds, feeling the whisper of the wind. I would rest not only my body, but my spirit, mumbling to myself, my greatest fears, my deepest joys. My mind would listen to my heart, and yes, my Unitarian Universalist religious education, and would sneak out, ponder even briefly the larger world around me, the people, the earth, the universe, and how we are all interconnected. I would look at the sun between my fingers, feel my heartbeat, hear my breath, and my mind would turn to questions of who I was, who I am, who I hope to be. This moment feels something like that childhood experience. I'm reminded of these words by Wendell Berry, the great natural poet from America's heartland and backcountry. As I read aloud Wendell Berry's words, I'd invite you to reflect on your own lived experiences and what helps you make meaning in this moment. And also remember and stay grounded in our first source of Unitarian Universalism, where we affirm and promote the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. This is The Peace of the Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. I love the idea of a deeper rest, not just resting to wake up and go out and about my routines of work and school and family, but to rest my soul and free myself of despair. This feels purposeful, even necessary to sustain my mental and spiritual health. I've been leaning into the feeling of stillness that feels both wonderful and anxious. I'm appreciating the extra time that I have for sleep and play, having my family all around all the time. And I really do want it to be restorative, but I must admit I also feel disturbed. Taking in the day's news, worrying about elders and our family, and adjusting every aspect of our daily life is stressful. As a chaplain working in a hospital years ago, they told me that one of the hardest things is not knowing. I can feel that, and I'm taxed by the forethought of grief. Yet there's a grace in the unknown, in the peering into the abyss and wondering deeply, in letting ourselves be open to awe and the forces that create and uphold life. When we have lost our ability at foresight, or we cannot plan ahead and can only live day to day, when we let go through our spiritual practice, our meditation, our breathing, our worship together, there is a special power there. As Unitarian Universalists, one of our characteristics is being present in this world, living our lives in a way that brings heaven on earth. It is about shifting from listening not only to ourselves, but to listen to those of us around us and around the world. And now is always the time to be striving to live faithfully in this way. We are all facing some form of isolation through these social distancing measures. In our family, we're grieving the loss of human connection, visiting our relatives in person, seeing teenagers playing with friends. School, work trips, vacations, family gatherings have all been canceled. I have found myself in that state between solitude and loneliness. And I've struggled with how to find purpose in this experience of isolation. I found some in the poet Nurburn, who writes these words: "For many people, solitude is just a poet's word for being alone. But being alone in itself is nothing. It can be a breeding ground of loneliness as easily as a source of solitude. Solitude is a condition of peace that stands in direct opposition to loneliness. Loneliness is like sitting in an empty room and being aware of the space around you. It is a condition of separateness. Solitude is becoming one with the space around you. It is a condition of union." Condition of union. This ideal has given me purpose. It has made me appreciate the dimension of this crisis that has me imagining new possibilities. We can clarify who we are, prioritize what we need, and cultivate the relationships that sustain us. We can connect with our sense of place, offering support to neighbors, and investing in new systems of care. This idea of a greater union is also a call for us to be in relationship with all that is around us, to consider more deeply the issues and experiences of our global family. How can we as a collective of Unitarian Universalists balance our own struggles and hardships and also share the center of people who are also facing profound suffering? We can take solace that we are not alone and share that sense with others. We are always in a time of faith formation, and every moment we are in is shaping our beliefs and theology. Ours is an active faith, lived not only in our confessions of the soul, but in our deeds and values we practice day in and day out. Let us pay attention to this. For me at this moment, I love how Unitarian Universalism teaches us that we are all blessed by God's love, and shows us how through our commitments to build community, we are paying attention to the world around us. In our collective work for justice, we are paying attention to the world around us. I also love how our faith and many sibling faiths give us an opportunity for reflection, growth, and transformation. I find myself wondering, how am I being changed by this pandemic? There's an image of concentric circles that circulated on my social media recently called, "Who do I want to be during COVID-19?" It breaks the question down into 3 zones: the fear zone, the learning zone, and the desired destination, the growth zone. I appreciated this as a diagnostic tool to assess the zone a person may be in and give us a sense of directionality. In the fear zone, there are statements like, I spread emotions related to fear and anger. I complain frequently. I get mad easily. In the learning zone, statements like, I identify my emotions. I become aware of the situation and think how to act. I try to recognize we are all trying to do our best. And in the growth zone, statements like, I am empathetic with myself and with others. I think and appreciate others. I practice quietude, patience, relationships, and creativity. And I live in the present and focus on the future. What zone do you feel like you're in? What does this mean for us now, and where will we go in the future? I think it's okay to be in multiple zones because we are complex people. And I think it's also helpful for us to be thinking about that broader relationship, because life as we know it has not only stopped, but when we resume in a post-pandemic world, things will not be the same. And frankly, things should not be the same. The Indian novelist and human rights activist Arundhati Roy writes, whatever it is, coronavirus has made the mighty kneel and brought the world to a halt like nothing else could. Our minds are still racing back and forth, longing for a return to normality, trying to stitch our future to our past and refusing to acknowledge the rupture. But the rupture exists. And in the midst of this terrible despair, it offers us a chance to rethink the doomsday machine we have built for ourselves. Nothing could be worse than a return to normality. Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our data banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly, with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. I am so ready to imagine another world, especially after years of feeling like civilization is in a free fall, facing far-right politics, disaster capitalism, a climate catastrophe, and now the pandemic. We have been between outrage and numbness, And as we have sought to resist and reimagine, we are probably exhausted. And yet, we keep going forward. How has this moment broadened your sense of connection? Who and what supports you in your growth zone? I have found myself paying attention to classic organizer questions recently. Who benefits? Who is most impacted? To help guide my way through the crush of news and social media posts. This also helps me be accountable with the privileges that I have: economic, education, language, health, to name a few. As I strive to be empathetic of others, I'm open to my own attitudes and beliefs being transformed by the experiences of others. I'm learning how this is not just a health crisis, but a housing, food, immigration, and justice crisis. How day laborers and prisoners, refugees and victims of domestic violence, persons with underlying health conditions, and people of color are disproportionately bearing the burden of this pandemic. We have a choice to humanize or marginalize people, to be in solidarity or to let groups be scapegoated for political gain. We have been taking note of all the injustices happening, and it is terrible. And I encourage us to grieve the world. But then I encourage us to lift one another up and keep on our journey for what our people and planet need most: the rights, resources, and recognition needed to thrive. I believe we are witnessing the emergence of a paradigm shift, a shift in what we believe to be true about ourselves, about the world and our future. And we are asking, I am asking, what opportunities do we have to nurture and create the paradigm shifts that we need? What are the opportunities to protect and advance justice for all? Let us hold the notion of grace together, a religious ideal that conjures up a greater power and the ability to heal. For the world's divisions and hurts run so deep that it feels like you need an act of grace. Grace for me is knowing you are enough, that you have a place and a purpose in the universe. Grace, especially in the Christian sense, is that of abiding acceptance, forgiveness, and salvation freely given to all by God. In my religious, liberal theology, it is also the love of the wholeness of creation, the fact that each of us are accepted and that our experiences of mattering are signs of grace. My colleague, the Reverend Margaret Beckman says, grace is experiencing the joy of being alive in the here and now. Grace is being alive and in relation to the larger interconnected web of life. What grace means in the shadow of fear and destruction. What can grace mean within a liberal religious community where reason and science temper our understanding of that which we call holy? Is it not present when we sense that there is a space or a place where we are accepted and belong? End quote. When I feel in my heart this acceptance and belonging, knowing that I am enough and that I am loved, I feel like my best self. I feel braver, wiser, and more willing to risk. It gives me the confidence to build relationships. Sometimes it is just good to be reminded of our goodness and know that all life flows from God's love. I do my best to give in to love, not fear, and make decisions in a kinder, more holistic, and intentional way. How does grace make you feel? As we rest in the grace of the world, even for a moment, may we come to all our senses. May we let the natural energy of the universe fuel our human imagination and be drawn to our larger community, our ecology, and our ancestors for wisdom. I see in our human nature of caring, in being guided by science and reason. I see it in our poetry and artistry. I see it in our meaningful partnerships and authentic relationships. Let me close with these words by the late Mary Oliver, who is something of our Unitarian Universalist poet laureate. This is her poem, Who Said This? Something whispered something that was not even a word. It was more like a silence that was understandable. I was standing at the edge of the pond. Nothing living, what we call living, was in sight. And yet the voice entered me, my body life, with so much happiness. And there was nothing there but the water, the sky, the grass. May it be so, and amen.
Thank you, Reverend Joseph, for joining us to continue our commemoration of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, and for reminding us all of the ways that we do indeed rest in the grace of the world. Let us take some moments of silence to reach out through our imaginations to extend our love and compassionate energy along all the threads of the interdependent web. Let us now join in singing hymn number 134, Our World is One World.
Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all. The seas that watch us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate, we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand and fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
After our closing words, our service will end with the singing of the fivefold Amen and hearing a postlude. Our deepest gratitude to the Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons for bringing his wisdom and calming presence to our gathering this morning. Our deepest gratitude as well to all our musicians. And special thanks to the worship support team, most especially Kevin Lane Cummings, today's VJ, who literally did the captions last night, and all of the team who literally made our collective worship experience possible today. So now remember, during the postlude, look in the chat area for the Zoom link to the virtual coffee hour, where we can visit with each other until 12:30. A reminder that if you want to chat with the board, there is a separate link for that group. And now you're invited to find hands to hold in body or in spirit, wherever you are, while I share today's closing words and we release the flame. Our closing words are by Annie Forster. As far as our love flows, as far as our hope grows, as far as our yearning goes, we are no farther one from another.